Thank you very much for joining me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Watching this area, of course, in the tropics, these areas of rain. We've had some new pockets in the Dominican Republic, Haiti now, been watching the unsettled weather near Cuba, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and of course, still parts of Central America. Now, there is no name system out there on the Atlantic basin side, the Atlantic, Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico. There's no name system, and there's not definitely going to be one, but down the road, there is that possibility something can spin up. But as I've been talking about, in the short term, the biggest issue will be this rain that is moving in. It is going to be heavy, and we're going to see this for day after day. What's going to happen is, as this area develops a little bit, it's just really going to get stuck across the Caribbean into the weekend and right into next week. So even if we don't get a name system, we are going to get a lot of rain. That is the first and major concern with this area we're watching. So we're now going into monitor mode in some areas for the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, parts of Cuba, southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. What does that mean? That does not mean a hurricane or a tropical storm is going to head at us. We need to kind of wait and see what may develop. The reason we're in monitor mode is because of this flood threat. Over the next several days, we're going to see some rounds of rain. We'll get some breaks and more rounds of rain. So the areas of rain will be heavy. We've seen that in spots over toward Haiti and the DR already from last night into today. We need to watch the rivers. The river crossings are going to be very dangerous at times, especially later in the week, and on the lookout for some mudslides and those rock slides, right? This area, could eventually develop, but at least over the next few days into this weekend and next week, we are in monitor mode for the higher risk of flooding. That is a big concern to me. We do not need a name system. We don't need Patty out there for something to cause a big issue. Now, let me show you some of the changes with the potential of development. This is yesterday's American model, and I mentioned a few days ago how the American model has been off, right? If it was correct from the get-go, there would already be a tropical storm out there. And there is not. There is not a name system. So it's been a little bit too aggressive with the development out of this. And yesterday, the American model was showing this area eventually becoming a hurricane. Today, though, and last night, some of the latest output from this computer does not have this becoming a hurricane anymore. It has it becoming potentially a tropical storm north of Haiti and the Dominican Republic sometime down the road, maybe this weekend, maybe next week. So you can see, while it is still developing this area, it has backed off and it has changed. And that's why I have not been leading to the American model. It has been very aggressive with development, and we just haven't seen that at this point yet. So in general, though, we are on track from what we've talked about the last few days. I'm leaning more toward the European model once again. That was something I was leaning to with Nadine and even Milton. The American model has done very well with the likes of Beryl and Helene, but some of the models handle the environment differently, and that's what I look at behind the scenes. The European model says somewhere near Hispaniola, maybe near Puerto Rico, something might spin up. We might get a tropical depression or a tropical storm. I'll show you the expanded version of that in a second. Now, the Canadian model still has this becoming a hurricane. Now, one thing though, yesterday afternoon, the Canadian model was taking some sort of system and driving it to the northeast. The recent runs of it have been bringing it back to the west, which simply tells me it's a computer. It's not quite sure what's going to happen with this area yet. So I'm not discounting the Canadian model, but I'm not putting a lot of stock in it yet. The Canadian model did a good job with Oscar. It was actually one of the only ones that picked up on that. The Icon German model still showing no storm, showing a couple areas of low pressure, which are low pressures are storm systems, not necessarily a named storm system, but it's showing a couple areas just to keep tabs on. But all of the models are showing the higher chance of rain. Now, I mentioned this area of rain, whether it's a storm, whether it's a tropical storm or not, whether it's a named storm or not, it is kind of getting stuck for us in the Caribbean. What's happening is, here we are in the Caribbean, an area of high pressure is pretty dominant to the north. Those are blockers, so that kind of acts like a fence or a barrier. So this area down in the Caribbean just kind of sits there, and that's why we're in monitor mode for some of us for that flood potential, because this area is just going to stay there. These fronts in the U.S. sometimes could help steer these things, move these things into different directions, but these fronts kind of weaken, and this area of high pressure near Bermuda is pretty dominant. So at least through the weekend, this area as a whole is going to be right around the Caribbean. That's why we're in monitor mode, and that's why I am concerned about the flood threat, the rivers, and that mudslide potential. Now, here's the American model, which is aggressive. Now, the American model in the short term, though, has been correct. About 3-4 days out, it's been good. Once we get past that, it's way too aggressive. You see here by the time we get into later this week, it's showing that buildup of rain. I do believe this is going to happen. So today, tomorrow, into Thursday, it is very accurate, showing the increased rain. Here are those fronts across the U.S., but these fronts kind of die out, like I was just showing you. So there's not a lot of pull with them to kind of really lift a system a whole lot to the north. Now, let me just show you the American model. It does show something trying to spin up, but as I mentioned, if you go back and look at yesterday's video, it was showing a hurricane. Today it is not showing that, which is always good. We don't root for storms. It's showing this area of high pressure over toward Bermuda. That's the blocker I was just talking about. That's why this system, this area is getting stuck, and all this rain is just around. These fronts aren't doing a whole lot over here, so this is by Saturday. Now, for us in the Eastern Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, we've been kind of drier. North, we start to get a better chance of some showers, so I'll be keeping an eye on that, Antigua, Barbuda. But where we are in monitor mode, Cayman Islands, right back through the British and U.S. Virgin Islands, you can see why we are in monitor mode. This here is by next week, so we're talking almost about a week from now. This is Tuesday. The rain is still there, so it's not that I don't care that if it's a named system or not, but the problem exists that we just have a lot of rain that is still around. You get the idea. We are going way out in time here, and there is still the rain. Now, at this point, sometime next week, the American model does try to spin up some sort of a tropical storm. We'll wait and see if that happens, but the rain, the big issue. It's just in place. Now, the model I'm leaning to is the European model. As of now, it hints at some development next week. I'll wait and see on that. But like the American model, it does show that rain around. So here's Cuba. Here we are in Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and you can see all the rain. High pressure locked into the north. That's the blocker. Watching out for the additional rain. Parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, especially over toward Cancun, Cozumel, and then as you get toward Belize, swinging back toward Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, some of that extra rain. This here is by Thursday. So Thursday, here's a front moving back toward Louisiana and Texas. Here's the blocker again. There's that rain stretching all the way back near Jacmel. We could be seeing some rain, Santo Domingo, over toward, you swing back toward Puerto Rico, over toward St. Croix, get over toward the Virgin Islands. We're going to see some heavy areas of rain. Not showing development though. European model out in time. Let me bring you into the weekend. This is by the time we get into the weekend. This here is by Sunday, and on Sunday it starts to hint at a little development. It starts to try to show something spinning up. I'll show you why in a moment. It shows almost two areas, little circulation down here, a little circulation there, similar to what the Icon German model is showing. But still, this area of high pressure is up to the north, keeping most of this action right through the Caribbean, up through the southern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. That keeps that flood threat high, and that keeps that flood threat just kind of building day after day. It's not a constant rain, but you know, if we've already gotten the rain, look at the comments from our friends in Haiti and the Dominican Republic from last night. We've had the rain. We had it over toward Belize, parts of Jamaica, Cayman Islands. We're going to see more of this rain here. This is by the time we get into Tuesday, a week from now. There is the area of high pressure. Sometimes patterns get stuck, and then that means some areas of rain get stuck. By next week, still watching out for this rain, maybe a broad spin, maybe a tropical depression trying to form next week near or in the Caribbean. So the rain, the big threat. And you can see here, here's a look at the Cayman Islands. The next 3 days, some of these kind of purple showing up, 2 to about 3 inches of rain will be possible, 50 to about 75 millimeters of rain. The rain could be higher though for us in Jamaica. It's not all day stuff, but where we get it, let me know by the way, if you get some of those downpours, put your location in the the comments. This will be helpful for everyone to get a good gauge on what we're getting out there as we go forward. We'll get some spots that could get upwards of 4 inches of rain over the next few days. Some spots, though, maybe not a whole lot. So it's not one big area of rain. It's just a lot of unsettled weather that will be around. So you may get it, but just a town over, there may not be a whole lot. That's how it's going to be. Now, as we broaden out the picture, watching eastern Cuba near the Turks and Caicos, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, these brighter colors are a big concern for me. Over toward Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, British and U.S. Virgin Islands, some of the black showing up in here, some of these reds in here. That is a big concern. That's 6 to 8 inches of rain, or 150 millimeters to 200 millimeters of rain. That's going to happen somewhere in the northern Caribbean, and that's why we are in monitor mode, and thank you for spreading the word about this. Yeah, not a named system out there, but that flood threat is very substantial. Now, here's the short term. I just want to show you short term so everyone could get a good look. St. Lucia, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent the Grenadines. If I haven't talked about you a lot, sometimes that's a good thing. That means something's not kind of headed our way. Southeastern Caribbean, we're a little drier. Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, watching the rain. You see it in here. As we work our way into tomorrow, Wednesday, northern Bahamas were better, but there's that rain building. Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. So that's what I was mentioning. It just kind of compounds day after day, seeing those scattered to widespread areas of rain. We do it again through parts of Central America, and there are those blobs of rain as we work our way right into Thursday. So each day we tack on some additional rain. We'll see that through the weekend. So the rivers just continue to make a rise. The ground gets saturated. Now, it's good news for the cisterns as we try to fill those up this time of year, but just that flood threat is substantial. Now, development. Yeah, there is that chance this area does eventually spin up. It is a wait and see at this point, but the water temperatures are so very warm. I mentioned about 86 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, about 30 to 31 degrees Celsius in this part of the Caribbean right through here. Here's that hot pocket. This is that high heat content. Not only is the water warm, but heat content is kind of warm water that goes even down below the surface. So as a system tries to develop, it just churns up more water, warm water, and that kind of feeds it. So there is a chance that this could eventually develop into Patty. A few days ago it was looking like it definitely would. Now I'm kind of curious to see if it does form. But Patty is the next name on the list. Raphael, Sarah, Tony, Valerie, William after that. We'll see how far we get down the list. We have about a month to go in the hurricane season. It ends at the end of November. Now, of course, the seas are going to build. Now, we're going to see with an old front here, looking over toward the Bahamas, you see in the Atlantic waters, things are really going to build with these old fronts, upwards of about 3 to 4 meters. So we're looking at anywhere from 9 to about 12 feet right in through here on the Atlantic side. You get back through of the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. The seas are going to be building. Antigua, Barbuda, we're going to be seeing that. Elevated seas. And then, of course, if we do get some development, this here is by the weekend, we'll be watching over toward the Caribbean where things could eventually get a bit choppier, but a wait and see on what kind of may develop in the Caribbean. The big issue is those blobs of rain that we have been tracking. Pacific side, a couple areas out there, not as high of a risk of development out of these as it was kind of looking yesterday. These could both spin up. These are moving away from Guatemala and El Salvador. Here's Mexico, here's the Baja right here. So on the Pacific side, here's Hawaii. These two spots kind of making a run toward the west. The first one has a better chance of developing. That second area kind of lifts to the north and starts to fall apart. Both may develop some, but as we go out in time here, just bringing it into the weekend, you can see how there's not a whole lot with this. So there is a chance this area may flare up into a brief tropical storm, and then weekend again, just know on the eastern Pacific side, I'm monitoring that. Now, all of this action down in the Caribbean that is going to get stuck, well, that on the flip side means high pressures in control for Bermuda. At least in the short term, it's not lifting to the north. Once the pattern changes, we'll see how it evolves. But for the Atlantic region of Canada, across the U.S., it's just watching these fall fronts that move by, that bring in some of the shots of cooler air. And in the meantime, I'll be monitoring what's going on down to the south. But over the next few days, it'll just be these fronts that will be sliding by. So I highlighted some of the rain totals. I do want to mention, I was talking about the Yucatan Peninsula, which we'll get to in a second, and parts parts of Central America. I want to show you some of those higher rain totals, but we're going to see those higher rain totals really popping up in through here. Here's Anguilla. Once we get into the end of the week, we're going to be on the edge of some of the rain. So watching over toward Anguilla, St. Martin, over toward St. Bart's, we're going to be right on the edge of the rain, even Ceiba and Statia. So we'll see how much of this rain just kind of swings over here, and I'll let you know if we're going to get some higher totals. We'll be going island by island. I mentioned the southeastern Caribbean, Dominica South. That's where that rain chance has been a lot lower. So generally some dry conditions, Suriname, Guyana, northeastern Venezuela, but northern Colombia, right back through Panama, Costa Rica, even some of these reds showing up that we could get some 3-day totals approaching 8 inches of rain. That's a possibility. And then right in through here, you see Cozumel over toward Cancun on the Caribbean side of the Yucatan Peninsula. That's where we have a better chance of getting some higher totals. Scattered about Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico City. We could get a couple showers as we go over the next few days. So rain chance stays elevated. Not all day, kind of the scattered variety the next few days in Jamaica, but we are in monitor mode for the potential of flooding, not necessarily the potential for a named system. Same thing goes for the Cayman Islands. But you see, in Trinidad and Tobago, how our rain chance is so low, which means, not that we're not going to get a shower, it's going to be on the hot side. Barbados, rain chance at a seasonable 40% chance, 40 to 50% chance as we work our way through St. Lucia. The next 2 days in Grenada, rain chance not very high, about a 30% chance, 40 to 50% chance the next 3 days, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In Martinique, about a 30% chance the next couple days. Then as we get toward Dominica, we may get a passing shower tomorrow and again on Thursday. 40 to 50% chance in Guadeloupe. Rain chance 30 to 40% Antigua and Barbuda, but we'll keep an eye on that rain chance building some as the week goes on. We'll see how close this big batch of rain gets. St. Kitts, Nevis, and Montserrat, 40 to 50% chance. 40 to 50% chance the next couple days in Anguilla and St. Bart's. But what I was showing you just a couple minutes ago, we're going to be on the edge of some of that heavier rain by the time we get into Thursday and into Friday. Same thing, St. Martin, Ceiba, and Statia. We swing back, I think I skipped ahead. Let me get over here to Puerto Rico. Rain chance 60 to 70%. Watching out for the areas of flooding in Puerto Rico, so we spread the word about that. There's not a huge system coming at us as far as a major hurricane, but we do have that flood threat that will be increasing. And then you can see U.S. and British Virgin Islands. We're up to a 70% chance of rain by Thursday, 20 to 30% chance in the Bahamas. Rain chance, though, elevated. Turks and Caicos on the edge of some of that heavier rain. Watching out for the areas of flooding as I've been highlighting through the Dominican Republic and right back through Haiti, as that rain chance is going to stick around right through the end of the week, which means those dangerous rivers and those rock slides and mudslides, treacherous travel, no doubt for some of us. Scattered areas of rain and storms across Belize, Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire. The rain chance still holding at about 20 to 30%. It may bump up some on Friday and Saturday depending on how all this shakes out, but Guyana and Suriname, we're generally on the dry side and on the very hot side. Isolated showers and storms across Cuba. Better chance eastern end as this moisture builds. Costa Rica and Panama, 70% chance. 50 to 60% chance the next 3 days in Nicaragua. Honduras, we're still unsettled. About a 50 to 60% chance of rain. And we do that again, Guatemala and El Salvador. Isolated showers possible in Mexico City. Rain chance builds some. Yucatan Peninsula, though, east side, that's where we have the better chance. Northern Colombia, rain chance around, especially right on the water. Northern Venezuela, not a lot, 20 to 30% chance. We do that again as we work our way back through Bermuda. So the rain and that flood threat, it is going to be building. We are in monitor mode for several locations now, so thank you for getting the word out, watching the rivers, the mudslides. Some development will be possible, but we're tracking this long term. I mentioned that stuck weather pattern. We are tracking this together right into next week. So thank you for your patience with all this rain building in the Caribbean. I'll be watching it nonstop around the clock. I'll get to those comments throughout the day. Be safe and have a good day ahead.